for serving our country overseas, and also for everyone lost to COVID-19. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please have a seat.
Notice requirements of the Open Public Meeting Law have been satisfied concerning this meeting. The public hearing was advertised in the News Tribune, the Star Ledger, posted on the Municipal Bulletin Board, and should be so noted in the minutes of this meeting. Councilman Spiller.
Here.
Councilman Ficarra.
Here.
Councilwoman Meehan. Here. Councilwoman Drum.
Here.
Councilman Patel. Councilman Anderson.
Here.
Councilman Bauer.
Here.
Vice President Small.
Here.
President De Jesus.
Here.
Thank you, Madam President. We're going to begin with number 1 tonight. We have 3 resolutions for consideration. Number 1 is a resolution that is going to act upon an emergency temporary appropriation. You took action on September 29th, resolution number 3 specifically. This is going to rescind that resolution, and it's going to allocate the funds to bond ordinance 20-71. So before we get into the budget, I just need a resolution number 1 passed this evening. If I get a motion by council.
Motion. Second.
Any questions or comments from council? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Madam President, we'll go into the budget hearing this evening. The main purpose of being here, which is resolutions 2 and 3, before we act on them. I'll need a motion to open the public, this portion of the meeting to the public for comment.
Motion. Second.
Any questions or comments from council? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. The public portion of this meeting is now open on the budget, fiscal year 21 budget, and budget only.
If anyone wants to, has a comment or the public portion of the meeting, please, there's a corded area over there that says public speaking. You're only allowed to speak from that area. And before we start, if I can kindly ask if anyone is standing, can they please take a seat? Also, there will be no comments from the floor. I ask everyone to be respectful, and there will absolutely be no foul language used. Everyone has time to speak and say whatever questions they have regarding our budget, and only our budget at this time. When you get to the mic, state your name and what part of our township you're from.
Good evening, everyone. James Dabrowski, Woodbridge proper. It's nice to see our mayor finally show up after skipping the, I can't even count how many
And
passed.
this is regarding our budget. And
It is regarding the budget, because we've
Okay.
requested an audience with the mayor to discuss the budget, and he has avoided it. The Woodbridge Youth for Liberation and Equity have discussed an audience with you all, the council. You've avoided it.
This is only for questions regarding our budget.
This is regarding the
no
budget.
comments.
This is regarding
No
the
comments.
budget.
This is not the public portion of our meeting. This is
not
only
the
for
public
budget
portion?
Questions. Budget questions. There will be a public portion after all the budget questions have been asked and answered.
Okay, so a question about the budget.
Questions about the budget.
Is it correct that the police budget is being raised 1%?
Absolutely.
Okay, what's that total come to?
Mr. Fernandez?
It's an increase of it's an increase of $340,000.
It's an increase of $340,000.
For a total of what exactly?
Total budget?
Total budget for the police department.
$34,413,000.
$34,413,000.
For how many officers is that?
Excuse me?
For how many police officers?
It's budgeted for 215.
215
250
officers.
police officers.
Okay, and then the public option, that means the public portion is coming later, you said?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for the question.
Are there any other questions this evening on the budget only?
Charity, Woodbridge Township. I have a couple of questions about the police budget. Why exactly is it 215 officers? Can you explain for that reason?
It's regarding a budget question, so it's regarding the numbers on the budget.
Yeah, but didn't you answer a question about the number of officers that is being part of the budget?
Yes, we're budgeted for 210 in the 2020 budget. We're budgeting for 215 in the 2021 budget. It's been our plan, and we announced in the State of the Township address, to increase the police force by 5 in fiscal 21 and by another 5 in fiscal 22. We put those plans on hold when COVID hit, and we saw some of our revenues decline. At the same time, we saw some expenses increase, so we waited until the year was out and the books were closed, and we realized that we still finished the year with about a $25 million surplus, which is what we started with. So we went and continue with our plan to add 5 officers this year.
What were the expenses that were increased?
I'm sorry?
What were the expenses that were increased?
Well, as far as COVID, personal protective equipment mostly.
And what is the reason for the increase of officers? You still haven't answered that question.
That's our plan. We've always said we had a plan to increase by 5 a year. We feel that's necessary to keep the residents of Woodbridge safe.
Necessary for what? Explain that, please.
To keep our residents safe.
From what?
Safety, public safety.
We need to
What
get
public-
back to the budget questions.
Okay, continuing on with the budget, I wanted to talk more about, give me one moment, please. So, on the website, in the budget, it talks about there's a difference between other expenses within the budget for the police department. What are those other expenses?
Director Hubner, do you have a list?
Are you, I'm sorry, are you referring to a particular page?
I just have a list of questions that were offered from each part of what I've read through. Because that was mentioned at the Human Rights Commission, that was also mentioned about the budget.
Find it for me.
So we just wanted clarification. We were told that we were going to receive that information and we didn't regarding the budget.
Your
So
question just now was what were the other expenses on the police budget?
yes, there was no like what exactly is other expenses.
All right, it's a whole list. Books and publications, computer supplies, copier supplies, emergency safety supplies, first aid supplies, office supplies, photographic supplies, uniforms and clothing, prisoner meals and supplies, guns, ammo, access and range equipment, fingerprinting and evidence, pepper mace, tear gas, other police equipment, other supplies, paint, vehicles, oil and lube, replacement parts, tires and tubes, other materials, computer equipment, technology upgrades, computer software, furniture, machinery equipment, office machines, radio equipment, signs, tools, traffic control equipment, vehicle leases, vehicle purchases, other equipment, maintenance contracts, software maintenance, motor vehicle repairs, office equipment repairs, other benefits, insurance, professional services, advertising, printing, other outside services, dues, education continuing, fees and permits, meal allowances, meetings and conferences, miles and tolls, postage and delivery, DVRT program, confidential expenses, miscellaneous expenses, telephone equipment.
My next question is how much of that budget for the police is dedicated towards mental health services within the police system?
We added $200,000, but it's not in the police budget, it's in the health budget, and that is going to help us evaluate how we handle people we come in contact with through 911 calls who have mental health issues. We have a very aggressive and very successful program dealing with people with addictions, and we send coaches out after we have somebody with a Narcan deployment. We send a coach out who's on call for 12 hours at a time. They're paid for being on call, and then they go to the hospital, meet the victim, hopefully in the emergency room, establish a relationship with them and make sure they get the proper programs and services, and if necessary, help them with shelter, help them with employment, become their friend for the next 8 to 12 weeks, and we think that's a great program, and we want to do something very similar with mental health patients, but we don't quite know how to do it, so we have money in the budget to work with Rutgers Mental Health Systems and to work with Raritan Bay Medical Center and help us figure out how we can better handle people who we come in contact with that have mental health issues.
Is $200,000 the only amount you are advocating for mental health?
That's for the study right now. We will obviously put more money in once we figure out what our plan is.
Was there any initiative to plan out further once there was demands listed about mental health?
No, we have to study and see what we need first before we can put a budget tag on it.
But why haven't you studied it prior when that issue was brought to you earlier?
It was brought to us earlier, and we took some time to figure out what we wanted to do, and we're preparing a request for proposals to get the right company to come in, and we're working on it.
It sounds like you're delaying this initiative and not actually putting any funding towards mental health, because it doesn't make sense how you have a $34 million budget for the police, but only a $200,000 budget.
Keep this questions from the budget. There will be a public portion of our meeting after the budget questions have been asked.
It is a
and
segue
answered.
to a budget question.
No, it's not a budget question. You asked how much money was allocated for mental health, and the answer was $200,000, and he gave you the plan. Any other budget questions?
Yes, I do have more budget questions. Give me one more moment. I wanted to ask a couple of questions about the opioid part of the budget on sheet number 22A. I wanted to ask why is there so many decreases in the appropriation, if you could explain that. Almost every section decreased except for opioid overdose recovery program, Blue Cares. Can you explain the difference and why that decreased where everyone else's salaries and wages?
There are 6 of those 7 items on that page are other towns: Old Bridge, Edison, Perth Amboy, South Amboy, Sayreville, and New Brunswick. So we only budget what they ask us to budget and what they agree to pay us.
Got it. In addition, I'm also confused by the sum of money and total assets devoted to each special purpose. So is it like we are only working with those specific towns and we're allocating money towards them, or is it like, how does that work?
No, they're paying us this amount of money, so we count it as a revenue on the front side of the budget, and we count it as an appropriation on the sheet 22A that you referred to. Whatever we get in, we spend.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Amber Jarrett, Woodbridge proper. You sort of answered my question, but the mental health, just for clarification, that $200,000, is that solely for the study, or is that going to also fund programming as a result of the study?
We think it will fund programming. We think it will fund some of the police officers who need to be trained, but until we actually go out with a request for proposals and see what comes in and who proposes and how much they want us to pay them, we'll determine that. And we can always put more money in the budget later.
That's what I was going to ask. It does not have to wait until the next budget hearing next year?
Well, we can put money in on May 1st by transferring it from another account during the last 2 months of our fiscal year. If it was of such a nature that we thought we could declare what the budget terminology calls an emergency, we could do that and spend it sooner.
Okay. And there are going to be no increases for the opioid, or for drug, prevention addiction programs, or for domestic violence?
The domestic violence number is the same as it was last year, and the opioid program has the normal increases in supplies and salaries, but we don't have any additional towns. Right now, we do 7 towns.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments on the budget?
Good evening, everybody. John Vitalik, Woodbridge proper. Mayor, on this budget, you talk about $200,000 or whatever it is, but you mentioned an awful lot of stuff that you need. Personally, I support 100% because we do need police now more than ever. And of course, whatever it takes, it's got to be done. Nobody wants to spend the money, but this is actually necessity because you can see that nationwide, worldwide, we do have a problem all over. Another thing that's to my attention is, we spend a lot of stuff on a lot of different things. And a lot of times I think, if I could talk about it, is the, it's for somebody, but not for everybody. But what a lot of people complain lately, we see a lot of homeless people on the streets in Woodbridge. I'm here 55 years.
Mr. Tarek, I'm sorry, what is your question regarding
And my question is that budget any money if you need any kind of a shelter for the homeless people?
We have that budgeted through our Community Development Block Grant Program, which is not part of the annual operating budget.
But do we have such a facilities so those people would have a shelter in case they want to
We
go?
generally use the Ozanam Shelter in Edison on Turner Drive, and we sometimes refer people in Perth Amboy to the YMCA.
My question, I talked to some of them, they're not aware of it, any kind of a budget. As a matter of fact, I sent 1 or 2 people to Mr. Mitchell's office, and I said he probably will take care of it. But that's a question I'd like to ask. Thank you.
Are there any other comments this evening regarding the budget only?
Charity, Woodbridge Township again. So you mentioned a whole bunch of words when it came to the other expenses. So I just had a question about a couple of things that you said. So you mentioned how much in the other expenses. I wanted to know how much was spent on mace protective gear. You mentioned a whole bunch of that. I want to know how much is spent on that, and also military gear. I know that there was, in 2018, we received a lot of that, so I want to know exactly how much is being spent on it
I
this year.
don't think I said military gear.
I know, but it was mentioned in the 2018 budget, so I just wanted to follow up and see if that is still a continuing theme.
What page? 56? 66, okay. It's budgeted for $2,000 in fiscal 2021.
And then my next question is how much is spent on education for these officers?
$50,000.
What does this education include?
It's a multitude of things.
What is the multitude of things? I can't hear you.
Attorney General mandated training, in-service training, those all here.
Can you go more in depth than that? Because that's not very clear. Especially if education is only 50,000, I want to know exactly what that's about.
Anything to deal with domestic violence, crisis intervention, firearms training, negotiations training.
And how frequently are these educational trainings?
Some of those are annually, some of them are biannually.
Is any part of this budget allocated towards body cameras? Or no?
No.
No? Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments on the budget only? Here are no other comments on the budget. Can I get a motion to close this portion of the meeting on the budget only? Motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments from council? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. The next two resolutions concerning the budget, the first is an amendment. Just bear with me, please. Item number 2. Under general revenues, the budget will go from $12,211,681.39 to $12,222,045.39. Total general revenues from $234,668,245.59 to $234,678,609.59. We're going to go from $0 to $10,364 on deferred charges for a deficit in the trust reserves for the concert series. For under H, total general appropriations for municipal purposes within caps will be going from $132,464,002 to $132,474,366. Total general appropriations excluded from caps from $97,879,243.59 to $97,879,243.59. Reserve from uncollected taxes from $4,325,000. That'll remain the same. And total general appropriations from $234,666,245.59 to $234,678,609.59. That is your amendment. Can I get a motion to approve resolution number 2, which is an amendment to fiscal year 21 budget?
Motion. Second.
Any questions or comments from council? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Resolution number 3 in your packet is the adoption of the fiscal year 21 budget. Can I get a motion from council to approve resolution number 3?
Motion. Second.
Any questions or comments from council? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Madam President.
We will now open to the public portion of our meeting. Again, there is a 5-minute time period. Say your name, what area of the township you're from, and again, there are no comments from the floor. Be respectful, and there's absolutely no foul language to be used.
Are there any comments from the public this evening on any matter? Here.
And one other thing, when you get to the mic, remember you address me as council president.
Yes, good evening, Council President, everyone. James Dabrowski, Woodbridge proper. So yeah, for the past few months, many of you are aware, we've been advocating for change in Woodbridge, anti-racism, inclusion, equity. The Woodbridge Youth for Liberation and Equity, who I'm very proud to support. We should all be thankful that they came into formation have been being ignored by our mayor, by our council. I just can't begin to express my disappointment. This national movement of racial reckoning, you would think we'd all want to be on board with Black Lives Matter, but to go the opposite direction, the Blue Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, All Lives Matter, it's a slap in the face, it's hurtful. I can only speak for myself, but I know there's many residents that feel the same. I want that to go on the record today, that the community was not unanimous about this decision that I assume you're about to make. I hope you'll reconsider that in a national movement where everyone's realizing one of the central components, that the safest communities don't have the most cops, they have the most resources, reallocating some of that bloated, exorbitant budget into the community, as many other communities across the country have been doing. Why can't Woodbridge get on board and be on the right side of history? We've done it before. When the immigration resolution was brought to your attention, you said you wouldn't even entertain it. It was a slap in the face to our undocumented residents, to children who are locked in cages, who this police union is supporting the administration who made that call, the zero tolerance policy. And it's white supremacy and it needs to be dismantled. And I don't understand why people just don't want to get on board with that. I understand why. I mean, we've been conditioned in this nation to be racist, but now we have to commit to anti-racism. And I know that makes many people uncomfortable, especially people who look like me. But we're going to have to be willing to have these uncomfortable conversations or nothing's going to change. There's a gentleman with a Cops for Trump shirt. Like, this is just... I want the council president, you said at their last council meeting, children are watching, students are watching. I hope they're watching right now and I hope they see this. That this community is not doing what's right, is not standing up for racial justice. When our nation is finally beginning to come to terms with it, we're going the opposite direction. And it's hurtful. And we can do so much better and we have to do so much better. And regardless of what you do tonight, we're going to keep showing up at those council meetings. Don't think this is going to deter us at all. And we're going to keep advocating for change, for inclusion and equity and anti-racism. Yes, we have the diversity. I don't see much diversity in this room. I see a lot of people who look like me coming out to support the decision you're probably about to make, and they're going to clap their hands and hold up their Blue Lives Matter flags and Trump hats. But that's not all this community consists of. I hope you know that. And I know you're comfortable right now. You got your 3 years, a lot of you. Some of you are up for re-election next year. So be mindful of that. And like I said in the beginning, the mayor, I hope you'll actually show up to our next council meeting. And I know you don't even want to look at me, but you can come to our next council meeting and maybe listen for a change. Maybe come to a Human Rights Commission meeting. You appointed those people, all handpicked by you. Come to a Human Rights Commission meeting. Council members, show up. Act like you care. Pretend you care. I wish more people would care. And I know a lot do, especially the youth. And they're becoming a voting age. So keep that in mind. Our next council meeting is next Tuesday night, 6 p.m. at Woodbridge Municipal Building, if I'm not mistaken. Our next Human Rights Commission meeting, I have to check the calendar on that. Show up. Get involved. People at home watching who feel the same way, get involved. Stand up. When we watch this years later, a lot of you are going to be ashamed. Just as the people during the civil rights movement who were on the wrong side of that, hopefully are ashamed now. Many aren't. Many are in their 70s and 80s with their MAGA hats on, and their Confederate flags, and their Blue Lives Matter flags. But children are watching.
Thank you. Your time
Thank
is up.
you.
Mr. Vittar.
John Vitale, Woodbridge again. Chairman's talking about a
Mr.
national...
Tatar, excuse me one second. Council President, I know he didn't do it on purpose, but Mr. Dombrowski was rubbing his face and then touching the microphone, and now you're touching. I'm worried about you.
I'm sorry.
I'm worried. I don't mean that. I'm not sarcastic.
You're right.
I'm just worried about
sorry.
you.
John Vitale, Woodbridge. Mr. Dombrowski was talking about the national movement. I don't see any other towns that got the same problem as Woodbridge, and I don't think we do have a problem. We are more together in this town. I understand a lot of newcomers came the last couple of years, a couple of months over here, and they want to make a big change. Change to what? Remember, you always get more fly on the sugar than the vinegar. I think what they're doing over here, they try to disrupt it. Of course, we're not all agree together, but we all know this is a great community. That's why we all came here. Give people a time, we will mend. You can't come here and demand, get you off, get him off, get mayor off. As a matter of fact, I was kind of worried about it, that mayor wasn't a couple of council meetings. I hope, he didn't feel good or maybe. But again, give people a time. Don't jump and don't force us, because we will not concede to demand of anybody. Our kids are here growing up. They were taught different way. They were taught to earn what they got, not get because what nationality, what religion, what color they are. So please don't do it, because it's not going to succeed. It's not going to happen. And again, I don't want to take any more time, but this is what's so about it. It's not national level. If it's national level, I would like to see this in every town, but it's not. And again, I agree with it. The council has to respond to it, and mayor has to respond to it, yes or no. And let it put it to the side, because we can't go every meeting. Every meeting we got certain people talk about it, nothing else could be done. Most of us even can get to the podium to speak because we are late, or we put 10 people in the council chamber. So please stop it. It's not national problem. It's maybe here and there, but don't force us to do it, because we will not do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Vitale.
Hello, Mary Nasser from Port Reading. I just want to start off by saying disappointment is an understatement when I look at the politicians of this township. You guys have not listened to a single thing that the people have been standing up for. We have been protesting, we have been advocating, we have been coming to these council meetings, coming to the budget meetings, coming to the Human Rights Commission's meetings, and nothing. You guys ignore us every single time. You don't answer our emails. I mean, you might be busy watching our Twitters, but that's pretty much all you do. You claim you don't want to work with us because we called you a racist, but if that's how you feel, I guess there's nothing we can do about it. You guys don't listen to us. The definition of a politician, you work for the people. We are the people, and we are demanding something, and you are ignoring us. And I don't know why that is. Maybe if it's because of the people in this room, I don't know. But when we have been advocating for a defunding of the police, not increasing of any police budget, so I don't understand why that's even on the table this year. You guys came to our protest, did you not? June 4th, you were there. Did you not listen to a single thing you were there that we said when we were there, or did you just come to show your face for political gain, to show that you were on our side even though you are clearly not? My question is, when Charity emailed Councilwoman DeJesus about the relationship between Woodbridge Township and East Jersey State Prison, you said that we had no relationships, but why does the budget have a part of the police about prison gear?
Excuse me? What was your question?
When Charity emailed you about Woodbridge's relationship with East Jersey State Prison, why did you say Woodbridge has nothing to do with that?
We have nothing to do.
So why does our budget have prison gear in it?
Why does our budget have prison gear on it?
Yes. There's no prisons in Woodbridge.
What part of the budget is that? What page is it on?
Charity can answer that question for you.
There's no prison.
There is a prison in Woodbridge. It's been there for 120 years.
Budget. We have a holding cell in our police department.
The only thing that mentions the word prison is prisoner meals.
Prisoner meals?
That's for people we hold temporarily.
It's just a question.
Prison gear.
It's just a question. There's no need for condescension. It's just a question.
and we're answering the question.
Okay, great. And there's no need for laughing either. I know you all support this,
Again,
but
you're addressing me as council president. And once again, if there's any comment made from the floor, I'm going to ask that you be escorted out. So we may not agree, we may all have different views, but we got to be respectful of one another because we're all adults in this room.
okay, speaking of that, I don't know how we can respect people who don't believe in human rights. We're not advocating for anything bigger than human rights. We aren't. That's it. That's all I have to say.
Again, no comments, no clapping. Let's just get through our comments, let's get through our questions.
Sir?
Yes?
Please state your name and what part of our township you're from.
Andrew Susko, Seymour. Council President, members of the council, Mayor. I lived in this town for 50 years. 30 years ago, I became a taxpayer. We're talking about taxpayers' money. This budget is comprised of taxpayers' money. It's always been my understanding of government is to provide for the law and public safety of the individuals of the township. Now, Black Lives Matters, WYLE, nothing against it. They're good programs. A lot of the programs are, but they're social programs. It doesn't come under law and public safety. And we have people here defunding the police, asking money for social programs. I can think of 100 different social programs. I mean, are we going to take the step to pay for child care because of people who can't work? Are we going to have public child care and taxpayers are going to have to pay for that now too? I mean, seriously, we pay, taxes in Woodbridge just keep rising. They keep going up. And a lot of money are going for social programs. And again, I'm going to stress the fact that we're taxpayers. And I've gone to the council meetings, and I've seen some people here. They are young adults. They don't pay taxes. If you don't contribute to the taxes, if you're not contributing to the budget, I don't see the premise of you having any say at the meeting as to what happens to the money. It's our hard-earned money. As far as the police budget is concerned, I do have reservations about that. There's a lot of building going on in Woodbridge. There's a lot of influx of people moving in to Woodbridge. My question is, at $34 million, do we have enough money for the police force? What about next year and the year after when people really start moving into all these new condos and townhouses that are being built on Main Street and in Port Reading? I'm worried about the infrastructure. I'm worried about the health and safety. Defunding the police is not the answer. 1%, I think it should have been 2%. And that's just my personal opinion, because they put their lives on the line every day, and I know a lot of police officers. And their families have a lot to deal with. A lot of the police officers, even in this whole country, sometimes the way they act is because of the daily stress that they have to go through because they don't have the resources because the money isn't there. So maybe not for this year, but for next year, I think we really have to back the blue, back our police officers, and give them what they need to do a job for law and public safety of our community.
Again, no comment. I don't need you guys to tell me how to do my job. If you let me get it out, I'll get it out. Again, I said no clapping, no comments from the public.
Amber Jarrett, Woodbridge proper. I just want to clarify, I do actually pay taxes. He referenced law and public safety, and I agree. But we are, and made a distinction between that and social programs. I'm not sure if you're aware that social programs such as drug treatment, housing, and mental health all have a direct impact on public safety. And that's what we're advocating for. It is not that we are I am not anti-police. I believe they serve a very vital function in our society, but I also am aware of the fact that a lot of the calls that they are responding to are the direct result of a lack of social programs and issues of mental health, issues of drug addiction, domestic violence, homelessness. These are the reasons for many of their calls. I acknowledge that you did increase the budget for mental health. I was concerned that that was not enough, considering the population of our town and the impacts of COVID. I'm glad to hear that more money could be added in the future. I'm also curious to learn about the programs that will be implemented from that. In terms of the $75,000 for an outside audit, I'm a little worried about the reliability of that. There's no denying that nepotism exists in this town. And hiring practices on paper aren't necessarily the same as they are in practice. And we mentioned the no increase or very minimal for domestic violence and the drug addiction programs. And, you know, I'm often told how incredible these programs are, and I have no doubt that they are, staffed by amazing and dedicated volunteers. But the data suggests that these issues are still very prevalent despite these programs. We still have twice the domestic violence calls that Edison does with the same population, almost 2 reports a day. We also there's been little to no decrease in the number of overdoses in terms of opioid overdoses. And with COVID, again, these things are likely to increase as well. Our programs may be excellent, but they're reactionary in nature, and investment should be made in more proactive solutions. Mr. John brought up homelessness, and you referenced the Ozanam shelter, which is great, but it is very limited in capacity. It has beds for 16 single women and 26 families. It's in Edison, which again has our population and serves a large area. Again, with COVID, there is going to be an increase in the issues of homelessness as people lose their jobs and things. And I know right now we can't, people aren't losing their homes for that, but eventually they will. So we're just asking, we're not saying that we do, I'm personally, I'm not speaking for anybody else. Nobody's anti-police. Nobody's saying public safety is not important, but you treat the root of the issue, and when you treat that well, there's not as much of a need. So, thank you.
Thank you. Charity, Woodbridge Township. Just wanted to start off by saying you are people who lack a conscience, who don't care about the people in this township. I want you to look at the representation of who is in this building right now and look and compare it to the past couple of months of the people who have been showing up and showing out at these council meetings. They were young people, they were black and brown people, they were teachers, they were students, they were people with disabilities, they were people that cared about their existence and their livelihoods. All I see is people who care about their privilege in this building right now, and it's disappointing. Honestly, I didn't even know what to expect because my trust doesn't lie in you all, because you've shown time and time again you don't care about us. It's sickening. You should all be ashamed of yourself, and I hope you know that all of this will always be there. I also want to recognize the fact that $200,000 for mental health will never be enough in comparison to a $34 million police budget. Period. $50,000 on education will never be enough. Do you know what $50,000 is? That is literally my tuition cost to go to Wellesley College every year for one person. And this is $50,000 to just go towards these police officers. Granted, I've heard many, many stories that a lot of these officers don't even pay attention in these educational platforms anyways, so I wonder how effective they are. My second thing is about the domestic violence response team. Despite all the talks about these donations, $10,000 here, $20,000 here, we don't negate the fact that violence happens there with police officers too. I've talked to volunteers and they've talked to me about how police officers are also their abusers too. What about that? What about the power dynamic between these police officers and the residents? What about that? What about the fact that people in this township continually ignore the fact that we've had a lot of issues within these past years with race? What about that? Literally, like what, a month ago, somebody came into the council meeting talking about how a police officer was following these boys and talking to them in a manner that was just ridiculous. It was racist, it was anti-black. And what was y'all's response? Nothing. Crickets. You don't care about the people in this township. You only care about the people with power and privilege, people that don't look like me. I see it in the way that the looks of this audience. I see it in the way that they respond to the way I look. I see it in the way that when I walked into this room, you all looked at me. Your eyes are telling. You keep saying the kids are watching. I watched. I was on the Woodbridge Youth Leadership Council at one point. I worked with Councilwoman De Jesus, as a matter of fact. These are things I know. When I walk into this room, I walk with pain in my voice because I see you all denying my existence and my presence, and the people that look like me, and the people who suffer just like me. The people in this township that have been hurt by police officers, but you wouldn't even consider even trying the least to at least decrease by a little bit, just to show you care. But you don't. You made it clear from jump. Mayor McCormick made it clear from jump. He said it in that speech. We had no intentions of decreasing the police budget. He said it. We see you. We know you. All of you. There is no exception to this now. All of you. And you're looking at me and I see it. The demands that Wild presented, there was a lot of work that you all needed to do and you didn't do it. You had all this time to ask questions on how to move forward. All this time to think of things. Like the fact that with the $200,000, you don't even know what's gonna happen, that's ridiculous. You could have asked us. You could have done research on other places within the US that have done this work. It is a shame. People are dying. Yesterday, a man in Philly just died. Walter Wallace, a disabled black man, just died at the hands of the police. This is not a one-time issue. This is not a police brutality issue. This is an issue of policing. Not just the police, but the way that you police people within this township. The ways in which your neighbors call on other people. The ways in which you police the people that walk into this room. The ways in which you judge people when they walk into this building and in those council meetings. Your preconceived notions of what me and other people that look like me do. It shows in the way you're looking at me. And you should all be ashamed of yourselves. Especially all of you with that Blue Lives Matter nonsense. Disrespectful. It's anti-black. A lot of you in this building are anti-black. With the policies, with this budget, and the way that you talk to people. You have a lot of work to do, but I don't trust you all. You've proven time and time again you don't care for people that look like me. You don't care. Thank you, your time is up. Do better, because y'all messed up.
Any other comments from the public this evening?
Good evening, everyone on the dais. How are you today? My name is John Maskelyne. I live in Port Reading. My biggest thing is I had the pleasure of talking to Mr. McCormick a couple times about this. The speeds on Blair Road have been going up and down and have been increasing again. And what my biggest concern is that there's so many more of the warehouses being built in the Carteret, Port Reading area, and with the housing that we will be getting by Woodbridge train station. I've already seen 3 brutal accidents in 2 years that happened right in front of my house. One person drove into a telephone pole, one person drove into a guardrail, and I watched a motorcycle flip over a curb. And I would just wonder if anyone could help me out with where your process is of helping to control that traffic and what you can do about curbing it in the future. Sorry, I excuse my appearance. I came from an environmental job site, so I just ran here, so forgive me. Second, I really commend the work that Woodbridge Police Station has been doing and all throughout Middlesex County. And I don't think they get enough credit for a lot of the good they do. And I wish people, lay off them a little bit, give them a little slack, and take the time to talk to them. Not everybody's perfect, but I think if you really take the time and listen to them when they ask you a question and don't be a hard person to them, you will get their respect in turn. I wish everyone a good day. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Bob Gillespie. I'm a fireman in Hope Lawn. I've been on for 39 years. I'd like to thank the opportunity of the council helping out the fire company. I know we talked to Councilman Bauer, and he told us we turned around and talked to the mayor about helping us out with equipment. Also, too, I'd like to thank the Public Works Director, all right, George and Kevin. I don't know if you remember, Bruce Turcott is one of our firemen, passed away. We had a sign that was in Bruce Turcott's park. We had it repainted. The town went out, they leveled it, they put cement around, they did everything they could, and by the help of Howie and the mayor and everybody here, I'd like to say thank you. Also, too, just to let people know, I know I hear a lot of people talking tonight. We talk about the fire and the police. When we go to calls, we really don't know what we're going into. When somebody calls us for the fire department, we don't know what kind of situation we're going to get in. The police come, they help us out. Same thing with the police. They get there first, they make their assessments what's going on, and they do a good job. So I just want to let you know that between the fire departments and the police departments, it's great to have everybody has everybody's back, and I'd like to thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public this evening?
Mr. Dabrowski, are you recording the meeting or are you recording a person? Because you have to ask the permission to record them.
Are there any other comments from the public this evening?
Mr. Dabrowski, no comments or you're going to be asked to...
Black guns,
Can you please escort Mr. Dabrowski out?
My name's Ed McGuinn, M-C-G-U-I-N-N. I was a career firefighter in this town for 30 years. And I'll stand beside any one of these gentlemen in law enforcement. I never heard one racist comment from any of them. And we would have found out about it, one way or the other. I want everybody to keep one thing in mind, what happened in Philadelphia. Take one good look. That was filmed by that guy's mother. You got a fool coming after two cops with drawn guns, and they're backing away from him, and this idiot still had to keep coming. I applaud those law enforcement for doing what they did. I'd much rather see that person on a slab than one of our boys in blue.
No comments from the seating. Can someone please escort her out? Thank you. Thank you.
No, I'm sick of hearing about our cops are racist. They throw that term around, and it disgusts me. Our law enforcement aren't racist. They do their job. They're gentlemen. Every time I come to his council meeting, I watch these guys get abused, and they keep their cool and they do their job. The only thing I pray that this council does, please, if the time ever comes, don't tie their hands. I don't want one drop of blood spilled from some stupidity. Please do not tie their hands.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments this evening from the public?
Wish I wore quieter shoes. My name is Victoria Birch. I'm from Colonia. I feel like it's the first council meeting all over again. I'm nervous to speak. We've been coming to you for months, asking for recognition of the demands that Woodbridge Youth for Liberty and Equity have put forward. I know that some of you personally have acknowledged these comments and are working to research the validity of such demands, and for the small amount of you that are willing to do such work, I'm thankful. to say that our police force is not racist might be a stretch. If we're going through their social media, public comments, different paraphernalia that those that support them might wear. I'm not ready to paint with broad strokes over the entirety of the police that they are racist. So in the same vein, I'm not willing to say that they are not racist. I think it's important for all of us to begin to work on our internal biases and recognize our position in the township and what our conditioned beliefs have forced us to do and allowed us not to recognize. So I'm asking that of the police. I'm asking that of the residents. I'm asking that of those that come to the council meeting. And I'm definitely asking that of the council. We've been asking for a more concerted effort in trying to change the culture of this town. I was at the Human Rights Commission meeting that discussed the topic of policing. And the statistics on our police sounded pretty good. Maybe I'm foolish, but it didn't sound like our police were doing a horrible job on a scale of force or statistics, percentages of arrests. So when we think about why there's such a big disconnect between how a growing portion of our community feels about the police versus what the police are actually doing, that's when we have to look at the nation and think about this as a national movement. So, someone who came up here before said, if this is a national moment, that's not Woodbridge's moment. Apologies if I didn't understand your true intentions with that, but that's what I heard, that we shouldn't paint the entirety of what's happening in the nation onto our small town. But if we're still feeling this way, and so much of us are, I think that a more intense effort should be made for the police, the council, and us as individuals to begin to recognize race and the ways that we interact with others daily, in private and in public, especially within our families, and especially how we vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor McCormick?
No, I'll wait till the public portion's over.
Go ahead.
Next up.
Good evening all. This is the first time I'm ever speaking at one of these. My name is Cheryl Olmstead, I'm from Seawarren. I just want to say you guys are doing an amazing job. You guys get beat up, you're doing what you can with the background or whatever you guys, I know I'm fumbling, but I just want to say thank you. And defunding the Woodbridge Police Department would be a mistake. I don't think they're getting enough to be out on the streets. Number one, I mean, there's a lot of risk. When they leave in the morning or at night or in the afternoon, they're leaving their families at home, and you don't know what's going to come through Woodbridge. You don't know what situation's going to occur that cannot bring them back to their families. So for me, defunding the Woodbridge Police, and like the other gentleman said, I think you guys need to rethink about putting more money into the budget because of all of the building that's coming up. So I just want to say you guys are doing an amazing job. You don't get pat on the back enough for that, but don't defund the police. Don't give them more money. They put their lives on the line. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Scott Schroeder, Woodbridge proper. Some folks who spoke earlier mentioned about the community's not behind everything you're doing. The majority of this community is behind everything that you're doing, okay? Just like everybody in this room is here for a reason. The majority of everybody in this room is supporting of all of our police officers. I'm a retired police officer. Love the job. I don't know if I'd want to do it today because of all the garbage that they have to deal with. It's getting harder and harder and harder. And they're not getting support from the community. This community supports their police department, and that's how it should be. Okay? Everybody's talking about racism, racism, racism. 8 years ago, I didn't hear anything about racism. So we need to think about why all of a sudden, in the last 3.5 years, there's racism that's gone through the roof. I think it's for a different reason. Okay? I'm a supporter of the police department. I'm a supporter of our council, our mayor, everybody. Okay? Doing a good job, guys. Keep it up, please. You have our support.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments from the public this evening? Hearing no other comment, can I get a motion that the public portion of this meeting be closed?
Council President, I'd like to say something. I don't know if now's the appropriate time.
Can I just close this if you don't mind first, Councilman?
Okay, as long as I get to go before the mayor, because I want him to have the last say.
Motion. Second. Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. You want to go back?
Councilman Vaquero?
Thank you. This is kind of a repeat of what I've said a number of times. And Charity, I'm glad that you're here and that you were able to maintain your cool to be here. You know, you have brought issues, demands to the table for a long period of time. And from the very beginning, personally, from the jump, I said that I'm not in favor of defunding the police department. However, within the demands that you brought up, I thought there were things to be considered. Myself and other members of the council have met with various departments, and there have been significant steps included in this budget that are steps in the right direction that are directly reflected in the demands that the Wild Group brought up. But time and time again, we get absolutely no credit for that. Now, it may not be the large steps that you want, but there are steps. You talk about the police department and continuing education. There is money there, and many of the training sessions they go to are mandated and paid by some other source, whether it's the state or another area. In the area of youth, we've opened up 2 new recreation centers that did not exist until this year, and may or may not be a reflection of your demands. We have the new one in Fords. We have the new one coming up in Woodbridge. The mental health, you can't just dismiss $200. You got to know. You got to have a plan before you start going. And in the area of mental health, I've talked to police officers. They would welcome someone to help them after they do their job. When there's a crisis, you're not going to call a mental health person. You're going to call the police till you figure out what it is, and then they have the ability to call in mental health. $200,000 is not anything to sneeze about. Reviewing the policies of the entire town, taking a look at how we interact with the community, how we interact with everything from permits to complaints and everything else, that is a step in the right direction. Maybe not yet where you want to be, but acknowledge that it's a step in the right direction. And finally, it was brought up about the immigration issue, and that is not one of yours. But time and time again, I've spoke to Mr. Dombrowski. Members of this council have had the opportunity to talk to Congressman Pallone about the issue. And he said, you can send a resolution all you want, but me speaking to you now is more important. I would venture to say that there's no one up here that's in favor of separating children from their parents unless there is a necessity for it because there's a danger to the children. And finally, the root of a lot of these problems is housing. And what we have done at Jacob's Landing to increase their ability to live in a pleasant place, to interact in programs, is second to none anywhere around Middlesex County or the state. So all I'm asking for is just a little bit of recognition of small steps. And that's okay, you can shake your head, but you can't deny that there have been steps taken. Sorry, I know you've heard that before, Council, but I just felt it needed to be said again.
Thank you, Councilman Vaquero. I would like to say that I'm very proud of the sound budget that you put together. I would like to thank our administration, our CFO Manny, and your staff, Director VA, Business Administrator Simaluka, all the work that all the directors do. And we have a sound budget, 1% increase in the police department. It's not a lot of money. And as a woman of color, and I've said it before, and I don't deny it, and I will never deny it, although some people think I'm too light to be Latina, but it is who I am. I have, in 5 years that I've been on council, I have always observed how our police officers work. I get by, I guess, because a lot of people don't realize who I am sometimes, and a lot of times I'm with my kids. But they deal with people in the absolute most professional way, and I am very proud of our police department and the work that they do. I think everyone knows that if I ever saw anything that I disagree with, I would be the first one to question it. Despite your eye roll, I always speak my truth and I stand for what I believe. And I believe that all of us here elected represent all of our township residents, whether we like their opinions or not. We are here to be unbiased and not put forth what we believe in, but what's best for our township, for all of our residents. We put in the work, we do the work. But I gotta say, like Councilman Ficarra said, never was there a question where we were gonna defund our police department. You may not agree with it, but it is what it is. This is our township. We have over 100,000 residents. We need the police force that we have. And I've said it before, all of this started right in the beginning of my induction into council. I support our police department because they do the work that no one does. Who else do you know that responds to a call from someone that they don't know and put their lives on the line for people that they don't know? We have to respect our first responders, and we have to value the work that they do, because without them, we would be a chaotic society, and that is not what any of us wants. Yes, we did go to your protest, the first protest. You came to us, and we supported your protest. We support our youth and what they believe in and what they stand for. Some of us have said Black Lives Matter, but it doesn't matter whether we say it or not, because we don't, according to you guys, we don't. A lot of us have spoken to individual members, and it's been said that none of us have responded. So it's a give and take, but there is no give and take. We are doing the work. I am proud of the $200,000 in response to one of your demands for mental health. Our domestic violence team does an excellent job, and they have the most training. We are responding to some of your demands. Maybe, again, not in the matter that you want, not in the matter that you like, but we have responded. I am proud of the budget that we have put forward, that we have voted on. I am proud of the work that our administration does, and I am proud of each and every one of our council members and the work that they do in our community. We will continue to represent our community as a whole, and we will continue to work for our community as a whole, for all of Woodbridge Township. And that is all that I have like to say. Mayor McCormick.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to thank the man to my left, Manny Fernandez, who's our town CFO, and behind me is Mike Klepchik, the chief accountant. They both did an amazing job with this budget in very difficult times. We normally introduce the budget in July, adopt it in August, but because of COVID and because of all the work they had to do to file grant applications for the CARES Act with the county, we took advantage of the state extending the deadlines. But these two gentlemen were just amazing in getting this all done. And before you tonight's the culmination of that. I'd also like to thank all of our directors. Our new administrator, Vito Samaluka, went through his first budget, did an admirable job, as did all of our directors. So everybody worked hard. I also want to address the issue that we are not listening to people. We listen to everything that's said. We understand exactly what's said. We just don't agree with some of those things. I've issued 3 statements. They've all been online. They've all been filmed. They've all been on TV 35 in relation to several of these issues that have come up. We are simply not going to defund our police department, no matter how much people talk about it. However, I think some people can take a victory lap and say, as Mr. Ficarra said, and so did you, we were made aware of the whole issue of mental health through WOW. It's not something we put in the budget in the beginning. It's not something we thought about in the beginning, I'm saying. And we did it based on people's input to us. So that's something everybody should be happy with. We also put $200,000 in to study what we do. We can't do anything about racism in society. We can't do anything about racism in the township itself. We can, in fact, look at our own operation, and we can look at every single handbook, every form, every policy, every practice, every script, everything we do to check if there is any bias, any discrimination against people because of race, because of gender, because of religion, sexual preference, disabilities. We need to do a soup to nuts evaluation of that. That didn't come to us because we thought of it. That came to us because we've had the conversations with people in this room who've been speaking, who've been coming to the meetings. So I think we have reacted very favorably to what has been brought to our attention. And anyone saying that we don't listen is just not accurate. Two of the things that we put in the budget for the first time are direct relation to the fact that the group brought them to our attention and we acted on them. So I want to thank the council for your support on those two. We'll keep everybody apprised as to how we're doing with them. But this is, once again, a very good budget. I'm proud to have introduced it, and I'm pleased that you have adopted it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilman Small, Vice President Small.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a few things I want to touch on that were already spoken upon. As far as the police department, Mayor, I'm glad we're moving ahead with adding the additional 5 as we planned, and 5 more next year. I'm glad we're moving forward with that. As far as EMS, I want to recognize Police Deputy Director Niski. I know we put some more money into the budget for EMS. I think the EMS program is running like a clock. I want to thank you for all your time and effort you put into this. And I'm very happy that we are addressing mental health. It is a big issue, and 200,000 might not be enough for people, but it's a start. And you heard the mayor earlier. If we need to add more money in May, we'll look to add more money, and I'm sure if we need to, we will. Other than that, God bless all our first responders, and God bless America. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilman Spiller.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to thank the Mayor, Finance Department, our administration for putting forward such a well-rounded, solid budget. And, throwing a big curveball with the pandemic, and sadly, in a lot of towns and governments, we heard about furloughs and layoffs. That didn't happen in Woodbridge. Matter of fact, we were able to give a little increase to our line of staff who put their lives in all the jobs, DPW, PDs, top to bottom. So excellent job, thank you. God bless America, God bless our emergency responders, God bless our Woodbridge Police Department. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Meehan.
Thank you. You know, these past few months have been very, very difficult for everybody up here. We've been accused of a lot of things, and I think one of the biggest things that we've been accused of is that we don't care about this community. And we do, every single one of us. We will do anything for anybody that calls and that has a problem. We will go out there. And for the police department, they're a great police department. I've worked with many, many police officers during Christmas and Thanksgiving, and the time and the effort and the money they spend on children of need, taking them to buy gifts and cooking them breakfast, taking time away from their own families, not being paid, just to volunteer because they love this community. So I just want to thank our police officers. Your job is not an easy one right now, and I just be careful out there and take care of yourselves, and thank you for everything you do for our community.
Thank you, Council President. I've been on the council now for 10 years almost, and it's never easy putting together a budget for the town, which is the 6th largest in the municipal township in the state of New Jersey. We're growing, as you see. We have a lot of development going on. We have schools that we're trying to keep up with. It's never easy. First, I would like to thank the mayor, the council, and the administration for being responsive in during this time when we had a lot of questions about the budget. This was probably the most involved. We got involved as far as asking questions, and because of youth groups like WOW, other groups that have come up, this has been, I mean, this is during a time where we have a lot of civil unrest going on in the country, and it's gotten a lot of attention in Woodbridge. I speak with the students, and obviously there's not everything that we always agree with. I've also taken it upon myself to ride out with the Woodbridge Police Department, and it was a very educational night. I know it's not an easy job, and I appreciate that when I go to bed at night, that I have people out there that are protecting our township. So I do thank them. I know many of them, I've got a checkered relationship with the police department. Everyone knows that. But if you know me, you know that I support you. All right? Are there things that I think that we can do differently? And I think that that's where the $75,000 that's being spent, where we look at our township and we start looking at our hiring practices and what we do. And I'm hopeful that they do recognize some things that we can do better. But that's where we start with. We have to start with investing in outside firms to come in, take a look at our township to see what we do and what we're, the mayor made that point. Because of the organization that brought these issues to the council, some changes have been made. It's not the way, the dialogue was not ideal. However, we were listening, we were talking behind the scenes. I'm hopeful that we can continue that conversation so that we can continue to be a better town and that we can continue to work together. I'm not going to say that everything is perfect in Woodbridge, but we can be if we work together. So I just want to thank everyone out here, just like everyone else. I thank all the responders, first responders, the administration, mayor and council. We are a team, and we may not always get along. We may not always see eye to eye, but at the end of the day, we all have the best interest of the town. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Picara, do you have anything else to add?
Me? No, I'm good.
Councilwoman Drum?
Thank you. I don't have a prepared speech, but I certainly would like to take my hat off to our administration and all of our respective directors of our departments. I've been on council for 8 years. I've never had a final budget hearing meeting like this. So with that, I'd like to thank all of the citizens of Woodbridge Township who came out tonight to support our budget. We worked really hard at it, despite what some people say. Each one of us, over there and up here on the dais care very, very much for all the citizens of Woodbridge. We work hard every day. The negative feedback is hurtful because we know what we do up here. We've proven that time and time again. We have an expert in finances sitting over there to the left. There are many people that know what we're doing. We are a well-run machine here in Woodbridge Township, and I'm honored to be part of council and to do great work for the Woodbridge people.
Thank you. Councilman Bauer?
Thank you, Council President. First, I'd like to thank the administration and all our directors for their hard work in preparing this budget. Being a first responder myself, a volunteer fireman of Ford's here, and working side by these police officers, I come to firsthand and thank you for all your hard work. Just one example, most of the times these police officers arrive before we do. So they have to assess the situation. They can run into a burning building, putting their life on the line for our community. Other great work they do, annual Polar Point for Special Olympics. We do a fire police ice hockey game for charity. So besides, they have a family, they work hard, they do outside work. Don't judge them for what's going on with this country. We have a great set of guys here. Respect them, and they will respect you. Like I said, this great job, guys, and like this and girls, sorry, men and women, sorry. Thank you for all your hard work and all our first responders. Thanks again.
With no other comments, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
So moved.